Okay, now we will speak about the post-process volume. It's an important tool because it works like a compositing tool inside Unreal Engine without to use any other compositing software, for example. Of course, you can use them. Always it's easier to use the softwares like After Effects, Nuke, or Fusion or something like that. But yeah, there is also a tool inside Unreal which can help you to make a small compositing inside. So I will show you. So here, when you write post-process volume, here you see this setting here. And now inside we have a lot of settings. If you don't see this in your project, for example, you have to come here to click, let me see where it was, here into the visual effects and to click to post-process volume. And automatically will appear in your scene. But now it's not ready. You have to write here, for example, this one, which is bound here, or you can write unbound. And the last one, post-process volume settings, infinite extend unbound. You have to click this one. And now will affect the whole scene. So you have to be careful when you are placing this for first time to check this one here. Okay, I will delete now this one and we'll start with the ready one. I will delete this and let's start to see what we have here. For example, I will stop most of the stuff here. I will open it one by one with you. And we will make the perfect settings for our cinematics together now. Okay, so mobile depth of field, we won't touch this one. The bloom. So you can see the bloom, what it's doing. Now, maybe you can see that good, but here in this field, in the middle of the animation, you can see how the color becomes warmer and it looks like there is a fog in the middle of our scene. My recommendation for you here is to keep it in a small value, because in the render and especially in the path tracer, it might look terrible if it's too high. So in the beginning, it was something smaller, like 0.2. So I think it's enough for you. By default, here will be standard. You can see how blurry it's our scene, but we will use this convolution one and it will be 0.2 here. Okay, here we have advanced settings. We won't use them. Exposure. So by default, the exposure will be 0.4. You can see what the exposure is doing. Sometimes it's really helpful too, sometimes it's not. It's totally up to you if you want to make your scene darker or brighter. But this is something which we will do with you after that in After Effects. But for now, I will keep it 0.4. By default, it's perfect fits for me. Okay, I will stop the exposure here. Chromatic aberration, it's not working here. So maybe for our scene, we won't see any difference. Sometimes you can see in some of the videos that there are some colors and some glitches inside. And this is this effect with the chromatic aberration here. It's helpful for the cinematics, but here in our case, I won't use it. I will stop it. We have dirt mask, we have camera stuff here. So the stuff which we won't need, local exposure, stop lens flares. So the lens flares is this stuff which are glowing and shining from different materials to introduce you this setting as easy as I can. So you have to be careful with these values here because they're really dangerous, and if they're higher, let's bring them by default to 0.03 for example. If they're higher, they can make a big problems in your render at the end, because here, for example, you'll have a shining and glowness from this metal materials, and if the sun is brighter, they will be visible a lot in your renders. And that's why here again for me it's lower values. So I will close this lens flares, image effects. This is this effect which gives like a border around our scene, which is darker. it's really helpful. To be honest, sometimes it makes your cinematic to look more cinematic. So yeah, you can use it and to add it here or also in After Effects. I will show you how to do it later in the other software. Depth of field. This is the settings here you will need. They're by default here. Color grading. You can make a lot of color grading here inside, so you can control the temperature if you want to decrease it a bit. By default, it's 6,000, but to be honest, here 5,300 and something looks much better in the render. So here I will write 5,400. Okay, here we have a global saturation, contrast, gamma, gain, offset. So you can see the saturation, what we can do with the saturation. We can change the colors of our background. It's totally up to you if you want to make these corrections. This is something which is harder to be created in After Effects without the different passes. But here it's easy because you can see we can make the corrections really fast. So I won't use these corrections here for our scene because without them it looks much better. Shadows, of course, we can make some color correction to the shadows in our scene. I will stop everything. Midtones as well. Highlights here. Let's see the highlights. Okay, we don't see the difference too much. The contrast. Here we are controlling the sky, the clouds in the sky. You can see how the sky now it's pink, now it's green. But if you combine it, for example, with the saturation here, okay, the changes are not big here. Gamma. And now we are changing a lot of stuff and it looks terrible. So I'll stop them. Okay, misc. I won't touch it. I will close the highlights and film. Okay, we have some film effects here. So here are the settings which you will need. So we have a slope effect. To the end it's too much, so something like 0.7 for example, I think, or 0.8 will be perfect. Here 0.75. This is the toe. Okay, by default was 0.55. The black clip, you can stop it or to keep it 0. Okay, global illumination, stop, refraction. So this is important for your effects here. Always remember by default, so keep it. This is when you're not rendering in path tracer. In path tracer is different. So in our case here, it's not that important. Rendering features, film grain. You can add some grain here, but we will do it in After Effects. So the grain is the threshold inside the view. You can see how the threshold is moving here in the middle. This gives more cinematic look to our scene, but I prefer to add them inside After Effects. So path tracing, here are the samples which are here when we're switching to path tracing just to see the results. So we won't need to activate the other stuff here. Post-process volume here, brush setting. Okay, let's continue. Also, one more important stuff is the motion blur. You have to enable all of this stuff here. And here, the translucency have to be raster. So if it's ray tracing, the Niagara effects won't work correctly. So raster makes everything looks perfect. So be careful with the setting here. Okay, if you can't find it, you have to write here translucency and you will find it. Also, if you can find the motion blur, and it's here. Motion blur, it's important when we are making the render. So yeah, this is everything you have to know about the post-process for our scenes. Of course, you can make the corrections you want. It's not necessary to follow my navigation inside. You can practice to experiment with some stuff.